The birthday card took 3 drafts. The first was too short. The second said too much. The third said exactly what she meant. Happy birthday, Dad. You walk into rooms that terrify people and make them feel like the truth has a chance. I want to do that too someday. I love you more than blueberry pancakes. And you know how much I love blueberry pancakes. Nia, she read it once more. Then she folded it along the crease she had already made. She slid it into a cream envelope. She sealed it with a small gold sticker shaped like a star. She had bought the stickers 2 years ago for a school project. She had saved one. She had not known why at the time. She knew now. Before we continue, comment what time you are watching and where in the world you are from. And do not forget to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you simply cannot miss. Nia Bennett was 12 years old. She had been saving for 6 weeks. She had started tutoring the boy next door 6 weeks ago. $10 a session. Once a week. $60. Her grandmother in Atlanta had sent money for her birthday, $80. 2 months of allowance, saved without touching, $32. A 20 she had found folded in the pocket of a winter coat she had not worn since January. And $20 from the school book fair, where she had sold 3 novels she had already memorized. Total, $212. She had checked 3 times. She had looked up Maison 11 3 weeks ago. She had read every review. She had studied the menu online until she knew it the way she knew her multiplication tables. Duck confit, pan-seared halibut, filet mignon with truffle butter. She had found the prix-fixe dinner option, $85 per person. Tax and tip included if you asked at the counter. She had called the restaurant 2 days before to ask about the deposit policy. A woman had answered. Nia had used her most careful voice, the one she used for school presentations. The woman said a $50 deposit was required for same-day reservations made in person. Nia had written that down. She had circled it. She had $212. She had enough. She had checked 3 times. At 4:37 on Thursday afternoon, Marcus Bennett was still in the Federal District Courthouse on Millbrook Avenue. Courtroom 7. He sat behind the bench in his black robe. He had been sitting there since 9 in the morning. The sentencing hearing for United States versus Gerald Marsh had run 6 hours longer than scheduled. The defendant's attorney had introduced new documentation at noon. Marcus had given them time to respond. He always gave people time, even when time was the thing he had least of. His clerk, a young woman named Yolanda, had slipped him a note at 4:15. Your daughter called the office line. Everything is fine. She says happy early birthday, and she will see you tonight. Marcus had smiled at the note. He had folded it and placed it under the corner of his legal pad. He had gone back to the hearing. He did not know what his daughter was planning. That was the point. Nia left the house at 5:15. She had changed into her navy dress with the white collar. It was the dress she wore to church with her grandmother. It was the nicest thing she owned. That was also hers. Not borrowed. Not grown into. Hers. Her braids were pinned back with small gold clips that had belonged to her mother. She wore flat black shoes that she had polished the night before with a cloth and a tin of shoe cream she had found under the bathroom sink. They were not designer. They were not new. But they were clean. And they were hers. She put the cream envelope in the front pocket of her small crossbody bag. She put her wallet in after it. Her phone. Her school ID. A small stuffed lion no bigger than her fist. She did not tell anyone she was leaving. Her grandmother was watching television in the front room. Nia leaned in and kissed her cheek. I am going out for a little bit, Grandma. Where to, baby? Surprise, Nia said. Her grandmother laughed. She did not ask again. She trusted the word surprise the way she trusted Nia. Completely. Nia walked 3 blocks to the bus stop on Cedar. She took the 47 line downtown. She got off at the intersection of Greenfield and 5th. She stood on the pavement for a moment. She looked at the building across the street. Maison 11. Old stone on the outside. A dark green awning. A small brass sign beside the door that you had to know to look for. The kind of restaurant that did not need to announce itself. Nia adjusted the strap of her bag. She looked at her shoes. She looked at the door. She crossed the street. The interior of Maison 11 was the color of warm honey. Low lighting. Round tables with white cloths that reached the floor. Candles and glass holders that threw small circles of gold across the linen. The ceiling was high and dark. The carpet was burgundy and made no sound beneath her shoes. Everything in the room had been chosen to say the same thing. You are somewhere important. Behave accordingly. Nia stood inside the entrance for 3 seconds and took it in. Then she walked to the host stand. It was tall and dark wood. Behind it stood a young man in a black vest with a small silver name tag. Daniel. He was 24. He had the look of someone who had been trained to smile at everyone and had quietly decided some people did not warrant the full version. He looked up. His eyes moved down at the navy dress, the flat shoes, the small crossbody bag, the braids, the age. He looked up again. The smile he gave was thinner than the one he had given the couple who had walked in 30 seconds before her. Can I help you? The question was correct. The tone carried a second question underneath it, one he had not said aloud. Are you sure you are in the right place? I would like to book a table, Nia said. For tonight? Yes. For 7:30. A table for 2, please. Window seat, if one is available. Daniel looked at the reservation screen. He looked at it longer than he needed to. Tonight is quite fully booked, he said. Nia waited. There may be availability, he added, when she did not respond. I would like to book whatever is available, she said. Daniel typed something. He looked at the screen. We do have a table at 7:30. Not a window seat, but near the back. Near the back is fine. It requires a deposit. $50. Paid in person. I know, Nia said. I called ahead to ask about the policy. Daniel stopped typing. He looked at her. Not the thin smile now. Something else. Something she recognized. Recalculation. Like a man who had already drawn his conclusion and was now annoyed by information that did not fit it. You called ahead. 2 days ago. The woman I spoke to said $50, paid in person, for same-day reservations. And you will be dining with my father. He will meet me here at 7:30. And where is your father now? He is finishing a hearing at the Federal District Courthouse on Millbrook. He is a federal judge. The sentencing ran long today. Daniel looked at her. His expression did not change, but his typing slowed. The name for the reservation? Bennett. Nia Bennett. He typed it. And the deposit? I have it, she said. She reached into her bag. She pulled out her wallet. She opened it and removed a card. It was a debit card, dark blue with a thin silver edge. Her name was printed across the front in raised letters. Nia A. Bennett. She placed it on the counter. Daniel looked at it. He did not pick it up. He looked at it the way people look at something they are trying to decide is real. This is your card, he said. Yes. Your personal card. My father opened a custodial savings account for me when I was 8. The card is linked to it. It is a valid debit card. Daniel picked it up. He turned it over. He held it at an angle, as though the light might reveal something that the front had hidden. He looked at her. I will need to process this with the manager. That is fine, Nia said. Daniel stepped back from the host stand. He walked toward a door near the back of the entrance hall. Nia stood at the counter. She kept her hands folded in front of her. She looked at the dining room, through the archway. White tables, gold light, people in evening clothes who had not looked up. A woman near the far window was laughing at something her companion said. The sound of it was easy, comfortable. The sound of a person entirely certain she belonged exactly where she was. Nia looked at that woman for a moment. Then she looked back at the door Daniel had walked through. She waited. The manager appeared 3 minutes later. His name was Victor Hale. He was 51 years old. He had managed Maison 11 for 9 years. He wore a black jacket with a mandarin collar and no lapel pin. His silver-streaked hair was combed flat and held with something that made it look carved rather than groomed. He walked with both hands clasped behind his back. It was the walk of a man who had decided, somewhere along the way, that stillness was authority. He stopped at the host stand. He looked at Nia. He looked at her the way she had been looked at before, not with anger. Something quieter than anger. And worse. Assessment. She was weighed in the 3 seconds before he spoke. She knew she had been found insufficient before he opened his mouth. Good evening, Victor said. Good evening, Nia replied. My colleague tells me you would like to make a reservation. I would. A table for 2 at 7:30. I have the deposit ready. How old are you? The question had nothing to do with the reservation. They both knew that. 12, Nia said. And you are here alone. I am here to book a table for my father's birthday. He will be arriving at 7:30. Your father? Yes. And does your father know you are here? Nia kept her face still. It is a surprise. I see. Victor tilted his head. And your mother? Is she? My mother is not relevant to this reservation, Nia said. Victor's chin lifted a fraction of an inch. I only ask because we have certain policies regarding unaccompanied minors. Unaccompanied minors making restaurant reservations? Nia said. She did not say it aggressively. She said it the way her father had taught her to say things in a courtroom. With precision. Victor was quiet for a moment. We have a dress code, he said. Nia looked at him. I have read the dress code. Smart casual, minimum. I am dressed accordingly. Our clientele generally. I am dressed accordingly, she said again. The repetition was not rude. It was a door, closed firmly from the inside. Victor unclasped his hands. He picked up her debit card from where Daniel had left it on the counter. He turned it over once. Where did you get this? He said. And there it was. For words. The ones that lived under everything else. The real question. Not where is your reservation. Not how can I help you. Where did you get this? Nia felt the question land. She felt it the way she had learned to feel things she did not expect. Not with panic. With recognition. She had been here before. Not in this building. But in this moment. She knew its shape. She knew its weight. My father opened a custodial account for me, she said. It is registered in my name. The card is mine. A custodial account. At First National Bank. I have had it since I was 8 years old. Victor looked at the card again. Nia A. Bennett. He looked at her. Then at the card. Back at her. I am going to need to verify this, he said. You can run it, she said. That is what the card is for. Victor handed the card back to Daniel, who had reappeared at the edge of the host stand. Run a verification, Victor said quietly. Daniel took the card to the small terminal near the wall. He swiped it. He waited. A green light. He looked at the screen. He looked at Victor. It cleared, Daniel said. He said it quietly, as if he had hoped for a different result. Victor did not look satisfied. He looked at the card in Daniel's hand, and then at the girl standing in front of him, with both hands folded and her chin level. The card cleared, Nia said. May I have a receipt for my deposit and confirmation of the table? Victor did not move immediately. He was a man accustomed to situations resolving themselves in his favor. This one was not cooperating. I would like to speak with you privately, he said. We are speaking, Nia said. This is fine. He leaned forward slightly. Not a large movement, but enough to remind her of the height difference, of the age difference, of the uniform and the title. A couple entered the restaurant behind Nia at that moment. The man wore a charcoal blazer. The woman wore a cream coat. They stepped around Nia as if she were furniture. Daniel appeared from behind the host stand immediately. His full smile. His warmest tone. Mr. and Mrs. Carver. Your usual table is ready. He led them past Nia, without a pause. Past her, and through the archway. Into the warm gold room. Nia watched them go. She turned back to Victor. Victor was watching her watch them. He knew what she had seen. He knew what it meant. He chose not to address it. I don't know what this is, he said instead, and his voice dropped. But a 12-year-old girl walking in off the street, with a bank card she may or may not have obtained. Her name is on the card, said a voice. It came from the side, from the hallway, that led to the service corridor. A young woman stood there. She was 23. Her name tag said Priya. She had dark hair pulled back under a clip that had come slightly loose on one side. She had been in the corridor when Daniel went to get Victor. She had heard everything since. Victor turned. His expression was the expression of a man who had not expected anyone to speak. Her name is printed on the card, Priya said again. It cleared. She stated the account terms correctly. Priya, Victor said. She called ahead about the deposit policy. She arrived in appropriate clothing. She asked for a table. Priya, go prepare the west section. Priya looked at Nia. Nia looked at her. Priya did not move immediately. Then she did. One step. Not all the way. Just back toward the corridor. She stayed where she could still hear. Victor turned back to Nia. I'm going to need to contact someone, he said. Who? Nia asked. A parent. A guardian. Someone who can confirm. My father is at the federal courthouse on Millbrook Avenue. He is in a sentencing hearing. He is not available to be contacted right now. That is why I came to make this reservation, so that he would not have to. Victor folded his hands in front of him this time. Then I am going to need to contact the authorities. The room seemed to tighten around those words. The authorities, Nia said. As a precaution, a minor, unaccompanied, presenting a bank card, that cleared. under circumstances that are, at minimum, irregular. Nia was quiet. She was quiet the way her father was quiet before he made a ruling. Not because she had nothing to say, because she was measuring everything she had. "You are calling the police," she said. "Because I came to a restaurant to book a birthday dinner for my father." Victor said nothing. "Because I am 12 years old, and I have a valid bank card, and I asked for a table." He still said nothing. "Because you looked at me and decided the answer before you heard the question." Victor picked up the phone at the host stand. Nia watched him. She reached into her bag. She took out her phone. She tried her father's cell. For rings. Voicemail. She tried the courthouse main line. It rang 7 times. A recording. She tried her grandmother. Her grandmother answered on the second ring. "Baby. Grandma. I am okay. I am at Maison 11 on Greenfield and 5th. I need you to try to reach Dad. Try Yolanda at the office. Tell her it is important. What is happening? I am okay. Please just try. Tell Dad where I am." She hung up. She sent a text to her father. "Dad, I am at Maison 11 on Greenfield and 5th Street. Please come when you can. I am okay, but I need you here. I love you. Happy birthday." She put her phone in her bag. She stood at the counter. She did not sit down. She did not cry. She was 12 years old, and she had come to a restaurant to do something kind, and the room had decided that was suspicious. She had been here before. Not in this building, but in this moment. She knew how to stand in it. Officer Diana Reyes arrived at 6:19. She was compact and unhurried. She had short hair under her cap, and eyes that took in a room in one look and held it all. She had been on the force for 11 years. She had answered calls like this one before. Not always, but enough. She walked to the host stand. Victor stepped forward. He gave his account. Unaccompanied minor. No guardian present. Presented a payment card of uncertain provenance. Refusing to provide sufficient information. Officer Reyes listened. She did not write anything down during his account. She waited until he was finished. Then she turned to Nia. "Hi, my name is Officer Reyes. What is yours?" "Nia Bennett." "How old are you, Nia?" 12. "Is a parent or guardian on the way?" "My father is. He is a federal judge. He is finishing a hearing at the Millbrook Federal Courthouse. I contacted him, and my grandmother is trying to reach his clerk." Officer Reyes looked at her. Fully. The way people sometimes forgot to look at children. She saw the navy dress. The gold clips. The flat polished shoes. The crossbody bag held steady at her side. The phone face up in her hand. She saw the cream envelope visible in the front pocket of the bag. She saw a girl who was frightened and had decided not to show it. She recognized that decision. She had made it herself, once, at an age not far from 12. "Can I see some identification?" Officer Reyes asked. Nia produced her school ID without hesitation. Hargrove Academy. Her photo. Her name. Nia A. Bennett. Officer Reyes looked at it. She handed it back. She turned to Victor. "The card cleared. The transaction went through, yes. But the name on the card matches the ID." "Yes, but a custodial. The reservation name matches the ID?" Victor was quiet. "Does it?" Officer Reyes said. "Yes," Daniel said, from behind Victor. Officer Reyes looked at Daniel. "You processed the card?" "I ran it through the terminal. It cleared immediately. The name matches." Officer Reyes looked at Victor. "I am having trouble understanding the irregularity," she said. "She is a 12-year-old girl," Victor said. "Alone, at 5:30 in the afternoon." "She is a 12-year-old girl," Officer Reyes said, "with a valid ID, a valid card, a confirmed reservation name, and a father on his way. You called us, because..." She let the end of the sentence sit in the air. Victor looked at her. "Because I had concerns." "What concerns, specifically, that were not addressed when the card cleared and the ID confirmed the name?" Victor opened his mouth. He closed it. The dining room had gone quieter. Not silent, but the kind of quiet that happens when people who were pretending not to listen stop pretending. A woman at a table near the entrance arch had turned her chair. She was trying to look casual about it. She was not. Her name was Dr. Adiz Okafor. She was a cardiologist at St. Clement's Hospital 4 blocks away. She had been having dinner with her husband of 22 years. They had been talking about their youngest child starting secondary school in September. She was no longer talking about that. She was listening. Her husband had noticed. He had not tried to redirect her. He knew that look. He had been married to it for 22 years. Officer Reyes turned back to Nia. Is there anything you need right now? I would like to wait for my father, Nia said. You are welcome to do that. Inside, Officer Reyes looked at Victor. She did not say anything. She did not need to. Victor stepped back from the host stand. The waiting area, he said. It was not gracious, but it was movement. Nia walked to the waiting area. 2 chairs near the window that faced the street. A low table with a white orchid on it. She sat in the chair closest to the window. She placed her bag on her knee. She watched the street outside. She could see the bus stop, where she had gotten off 40 minutes ago. She thought about the 47 bus. The driver who had said nothing when she boarded. The woman with the grocery bags, who had smiled at her braids. The teenager who had been listening to music and had not looked up once for 14 stops. Ordinary Thursday. Ordinary people being ordinary. Nobody deciding anything about her before she had finished walking through the door. She had not noticed that until now. How rare it was. How much she had taken it for granted. You boarded a bus. You paid your fare. You sat down. Nobody called for verification. Nobody asked where you had gotten your card. Nobody leaned forward to remind you of the difference in their age and yours. She thought, that is what normal feels like. And then she thought, it should not be notable. It should not be the thing you remember, because it was the exception. It should be the thing, so common it leaves no mark at all. She filed that thought away. In the place, she kept things that mattered. The place that her father's voice lived. The place where seat 2A still was. She would take it out again when she needed it. She suspected she would need it more than once. She watched a couple walk past. A man walking a dog. 2 teenagers with takeaway cups. She thought about her father. She thought about how the hearing had run long, and he was probably still in that dark paneled room, with his robe on, and his reading glasses, and the expression he wore when he was working. Careful, present, serious. She thought about the card in the envelope in her bag. She thought about the 3 drafts. She thought, he is going to read that card tonight. Whatever happens in this lobby, he is going to read it. That had not changed. Priya appeared at the edge of the waiting area at 6:28. She was carrying a small glass of water. She set it on the table beside the orchid. In case you are thirsty, she said quietly. Nia looked at her. Thank you. Priya nodded. She looked like she wanted to say something else. She looked like the something else had weight. You did not have to do that, Nia said. Priya looked at the floor for a moment. No, she agreed. I did not have to. She did not say anything else. But she did not go far. She stood at the edge of the service corridor, where she could see the waiting area, where she had been standing, quietly, since 6:15. Officer Reyes sat in the second chair. Not because she was required to. Because she had chosen to. Tell me about the birthday dinner, she said. Nia looked at her. My father's birthday is today. He does not know I came here. He thinks I am at a friend's house. I was going to text him at 7:15 and tell him to meet me here. I was going to tell him it was a surprise. How long have you been planning this? 3 weeks. That is careful planning. He plans everything carefully, Nia said. I wanted to do the same. Officer Reyes was quiet for a moment. What does he do? Your father. He is a federal judge. He has been on the bench for 6 years. Before that, he was a public defender for 11 years. Officer Reyes looked at her. He defended people who could not afford attorneys. Yes, he says the law is only as fair as the people who show up to use it, and most people who need it the most can barely afford to get through the door. Officer Reyes was quiet again. The kind of quiet that comes from hearing something true. How about you? She said. What do you want to be? Nia looked at the street. I do not know yet. Something that matters. That narrows it to about everything, Officer Reyes said. And for the first time, since she had walked through the door of Maison 11, Nia smiled. Small, but real. At 6:41, Victor Hale returned to the waiting area. He had the expression of a man trying to reassemble his authority after it had been set on the floor. Officer Reyes stood up. Victor looked at Nia. Perhaps it would be best, he said, if you waited outside. Reyes looked at him. The lobby is climate-controlled, she said. It is a cold evening. She is 12 years old. She is waiting for her father. She will wait inside. I have other guests. She is a guest, said a voice. Clear, unhurried, from the direction of the dining room. Dr. Adiz Okafor stood in the archway. She was a small woman. She did not need size. She had the particular stillness of someone who had spent 20 years telling people very serious things very calmly. She came to your restaurant, Dr. Okafor said. She presented a valid card. She provided valid identification. She has been sitting in your lobby for over an hour. Officer Reyes has confirmed there is no cause for any police action. She paused. She is a child. She is a guest. And she is cold. Victor turned to her. He made the mistake of using the tone he used with difficult customers. Smooth. Apologetic on the surface. Dismissive just underneath. Ma'am, I understand your concern. I am Dr. Okafor, she said. I have been dining here for 6 years. My husband and I have recommended this restaurant to our colleagues more times than I can count. And I am standing in your archway watching you try to remove a 12-year-old girl from your lobby because she had the audacity to arrive alone and appear younger than your preferred clientele. She let that sentence finish. I would like to know what you are going to do about it. Victor looked at her. He looked at Officer Reyes. He looked at Daniel, who had not moved from behind the host's stand and who was, at that moment, looking at the surface of the counter as if he hoped to find an exit hatch. He looked at Nia, and for a moment, just a moment, something crossed his face that was not authority, something smaller and less certain. He opened his mouth. He did not have to say anything, because the door opened. Marcus Bennett came through the door at 6:54. He was still in his court clothes, dark charcoal suit, white shirt, a tie he had loosened somewhere between chambers and the parking garage. His courthouse badge was still clipped to his lapel. He had his phone in one hand and his keys in the other. He had gotten the text at 6:31, when Yolanda had finally been able to reach him between the closing of the hearing and the filing of the order. He had driven 12 minutes, from Millbrook to Greenfield. He walked in. His eyes moved across the room. 3 seconds. The way eyes move in a courtroom, when you have learned to read a room the moment you enter it. He found his daughter, sitting in a chair by the window, a glass of water beside her. A police officer standing 3 feet away. A man in a black jacket standing at the edge of the lobby, with the expression of someone who was already calculating. Marcus crossed to Nia without speaking to anyone. He crouched in front of her. He put his hands on her shoulders. Are you all right? I am okay. He looked at her face. He read it the way he had been reading it, since she was old enough to feel things she did not always name. You sure? I was scared for a little bit, she said. But I stayed. He looked at her for a long time. Then he stood. He turned. Officer Reyes spoke first. Judge Bennett. Officer Diana Reyes. I responded to a call about a minor. My daughter. Yes, sir. Her ID is valid. Her card cleared on the terminal. The reservation name matches. There is no basis for any further police action. I stayed because, she glanced at Nia, I wanted to make sure she was comfortable while she waited. Marcus looked at Officer Reyes. Thank you, he said. I mean that. Reyes nodded. She picked up her cap from the arm of the chair. She looked at Nia. Good luck with dinner. She walked out. Marcus watched her go. Then he turned to the room. Victor Hale stood by the host's stand. Daniel stood behind it. Dr. Okafor stood in the archway. A server named Priya stood at the edge of the service corridor. And the dining room beyond the archway had not fully resumed. Silverware had not been picked back up. Glasses had not been raised. Several faces were turned toward the lobby. Watching. Waiting. Marcus was quiet for a moment. The way he was quiet in a courtroom before a ruling. Gathering. Organizing. Deciding what needed to be said and how much of it needed to be loud. The answer was none of it. He walked to the host's stand. He stood in front of Victor Hale. He did not raise his voice. He had never needed to. Quiet authority did not require volume. It required precision. My daughter is 12 years old, he said. He said it simply, as if he were reading a fact into the record. She has been planning this evening for 3 weeks. She saved her own money. She researched this restaurant. She called ahead to ask about your deposit policy. She dressed carefully. She traveled here alone by bus. She came through that door to do something that took more courage and more love than most adults manage in a year. He paused, not for effect, because some things needed room to land. In the time between her arrival and mine, she was made to wait, while a couple who arrived after her was seated immediately. She was asked where her parents were before she was asked what she needed. She was told her card was suspicious after it cleared on your own terminal. She was told to wait outside in a cold lobby. And you called law enforcement on a 12-year-old girl who was trying to plan a birthday dinner. Victor began. Sir, our policy regarding unaccompanied. Stop, Marcus said. It was one word, but it had weight behind it. The weight of 11 years of courtrooms. The weight of knowing exactly when a procedural argument was genuine and when it was a wall someone was building in front of a truth they did not want to say out loud. Your policy regarding unaccompanied minors, Marcus said, does not explain why a table was available for the couple behind her and not for her. It does not explain why her card was examined at an angle, as if you expected the ink to dissolve. It does not explain why, after the card cleared and her ID was confirmed, you asked her to move outside. He looked at Victor. I have sat in a courtroom for 23 years. First as a defender, then as a judge. I have watched people dress up assumption as procedure more times than I can count. I know what it looks like. I know what it sounds like. He looked at Daniel. Daniel looked at the counter. I know the owner of this restaurant, Marcus continued. Richard Ashford. We served on the Bar Association's Civic Access panel together in 2021. I will be calling him tonight. I will be providing a full account of what occurred here. I would expect your accounts to be provided in writing as well. He said it without heat. That was the thing about Marcus Bennett. He did not need heat. He had something cooler and more durable. He turned back to his daughter. He offered her his arm. She stood up. She took it. They walked together toward the archway. Dr. Okafor was still standing in it. She looked at Marcus. She looked at Nia. She said nothing, but she stepped aside and held the archway open, like she was holding a door for a procession. Sophie, one of the junior hosts, appeared from the far side of the dining room. She was 21. She had been watching everything from the moment Officer Reyes arrived. Her hands were trembling slightly. She picked up 2 menus. Judge Bennett, she said, I have a table for you. She led them to a table near the window on the far side of the dining room. White cloth. A candle in a glass holder. The window looked out over Greenfield Avenue. The streetlights had come on. The pavement reflected gold. Marcus held the chair for Nia. She sat. He sat across from her. Sophie poured water from a carafe and disappeared. Nia reached into her bag. She pulled out the cream envelope. She set it on the table between them. Marcus looked at it. The gold star sticker. His name written in blue ink on the front. Dad. He picked it up. He opened it carefully. Not tearing. Peeling back. Like it was something worth keeping the outside of. He unfolded the card. He read it. He read it again. He set it flat on the table, and he looked at it for a long time. Nia watched him. She could not fully read his face. She had not inherited that skill yet. She was still learning how to read rooms. She had not yet learned how to read the particular silence of a parent who has been given something they did not expect and do not have words for immediately. Then Marcus looked up. His eyes were bright, not tearful, but close to it, in the way that a man who has spent his adult life in a room where feeling too much is a liability learns to hold things just at the border. Nia, he said. Is it okay? She said. It is the best thing I have been given in a long time. She breathed. I wrote 3 drafts. I can tell, he said. This one is exactly right. He folded the card along its original crease. He placed it in the inside pocket of his jacket. He pressed his hand flat against his chest for a moment. Over the pocket. Over where the card was. Nia noticed. She tucked that away. She would think about it later. In the way she thought about things, that meant something. Carefully, and more than once, Priya appeared at the table. Her bun was slightly loose still. She carried a small bread basket, with a cloth folded inside it. She set it down gently. She did not say anything at first. Then she looked at Nia. I am glad you stayed, she said. Nia looked at her. Thank you for the water. Priya's throat moved. It was nothing. It was the only kind thing that happened, Nia said. Before my dad came. It was the only thing anyone did. Priya did not trust her voice enough to answer that. She gave a small nod. She went back to the service corridor. Once she was in the corridor, and the door had closed, she put her back against the wall. She took one long breath. She thought about the moment she had almost not brought the water. She thought about the rent, about the review, about Victor's expression when someone asked inconvenient questions. She thought about a girl in a navy dress sitting alone by a window with an envelope in her bag and no one offering anything. She thought, I am glad I brought the water. She was still glad, even now, even knowing what came after. Dinner lasted 1 hour and 40 minutes. Marcus ordered the halibut. Nia ordered the duck confit because she had read 3 reviews that said it was the best thing on the menu, and she had been curious about it for 3 weeks. She was not disappointed. They talked about the hearing. They talked about Harper's new science project. They talked about a book Nia was reading. They talked about Marcus's mother in Atlanta, who had called 3 times this week and left voicemails about the weather. They talked about nothing important and everything that was. At one point Marcus asked, "How did you get here?" "The 47 bus," Nia said. "Greenfield and 5th. He looked at her, not with worry, with something she could not quite name. Something between pride and the particular sadness of watching a child become capable of not needing you. "You planned all of this," he said. "I tried to." "You did." She pulled a piece of bread apart slowly. "It did not go the way I planned. Plans rarely do." She looked at the candle. "I kept thinking about the airplane." Marcus was still. "I kept thinking, I know what this is. I know how to stand in it." He waited. "Before, on the airplane, I was scared because I did not know how it would end," Nia said. "Tonight I was scared, but I knew it was wrong from the first second. I knew it before Daniel said a word. I could feel it." Marcus watched her. "And knowing it was wrong made it easier to stay still," she said. "Because I knew the thing that was happening was not about me. Not really. It was about what they decided I was, before I got a chance to be anything." She looked at him. "That is not something I can fix by moving." Marcus picked up his water glass. He held it. He did not drink. He was looking at his daughter in the candlelight. A girl who had arrived here by bus. A girl who had stood at a counter and been measured and found wanting before she had said a single word. A girl who had sat in a lobby for an hour and 29 minutes and not cried and not begged and not left. His daughter. "You know what you just described?" he said. She shook her head. "Dignity," he said. "Not the word people use when they mean expensive things. The real kind. The kind that does not ask permission." Nia thought about that. "Is that why you never shout in court?" she said. He smiled. "You can shout and fill a room," he said. "Or you can be still and become the room." She turned that over in her mind the way she turned things over. Carefully, from different angles. "I want to be the room," she said. "I know," he said. "You already are." Richard Ashford received a call at 9:17 that evening. He was at home. He answered on the second ring. He listened for 11 minutes without interrupting. He was the kind of man who had built a restaurant by listening more than he spoke. He had learned, very early, that most problems in hospitality were not problems of policy. They were problems of judgment. And judgment was harder to train than anything else, because it lived in the gap between what the manual said and what a person decided when no one was reading the manual over their shoulder. He had interviewed Victor Hale 9 years ago. He had hired him because Victor knew how a room should look. He had not asked enough questions about how Victor decided who belonged in it. That was his failure. He sat with that for the 11 minutes Marcus Bennett spoke. He did not try to explain it away. He just sat with it. Then he said, "I see." Then he said, "I am sorry. I am deeply, genuinely sorry." Then he said, "I will handle it." He called the restaurant at 9:31. Victor Hale was still on the floor, closing down the service for the evening. The conversation lasted 4 minutes. Victor's employment at Maison 11 ended at 9:35. Richard called Daniel at 9:48. Daniel answered in a voice that already knew. That conversation lasted 6 minutes. Daniel had been thinking about the water glass since the moment Priya had carried it out. He had been thinking about the card and how he had held it at an angle. He had been thinking about the word provenance, which he had used in his head to describe a debit card belonging to a 12-year-old girl in a navy dress. He had been thinking about where he had learned to think that way. He could not locate the beginning of it. That was the thing that kept him awake. Not the phone call, not the job, but the fact that he had reached for that angle before he had consciously decided to, before he had thought about it at all, as if it were just something hands did. His hands, when a certain kind of person stood at a certain kind of counter. He could not locate where he had learned it, but he knew that not being able to locate it was not the same as not being responsible for it. His father had told him once, "The things you don't examine own you." He had not understood that when he was younger. He understood it now. In the way people understood things, that cost something. Daniel's employment at Maison 11 ended at 9:54. Richard called Priya at 10:12. He told her what had happened. He told her he had heard about the water. He told her she had done the right thing. He asked if she would be willing to be part of the review he was going to commission. Priya said yes. He asked if she wanted a different section going forward. She said she wanted to think about it. He said, take your time. He hung up. Priya sat on the edge of her bed in her apartment on Carver Street and looked at the wall. She thought about the moment she had heard Victor say, "Where did you get this?" She thought about almost not coming out of the corridor. She thought about rent, about the review, about everything she had told herself was a reasonable reason to stay quiet. She thought about a girl sitting in 2 chairs by a window holding an envelope on her knee. She thought, I brought the water. I could have done more, but I brought the water. She did not know if that was enough. She did not know if enough was something you calculated in the moment or only afterward. She suspected it was always afterward, when the room was quiet, when the thing was over, and you sat somewhere alone and asked yourself what you had been when it mattered. The story reached the internet by Sunday morning. Not through Marcus, not through Nia, through Dr. Adiz Okafor, who had told her husband everything on the walk home, who had told a colleague at St. Clements on Friday, who had told a friend, who had written about it. The detail that spread fastest was not the police call, not the card, not Victor's dismissal. It was the water. A girl sits alone in a restaurant lobby for 90 minutes, while adults decide whether she belongs there. One person brings her a glass of water. That was the sentence that moved. Because it was specific, because it was small, because everyone reading it understood instantly that small was not the same as unimportant. That sometimes the smallest thing in a room is the only thing that tells the truth. Priya did not read the article until Sunday afternoon. Her phone had been off. She read it sitting on her fire escape, with a cup of coffee going cold in her hands. She read the part about the water 3 times. She did not fully understand what she felt. Relief was part of it. Shame was part of it, because she had almost not done it. Because the reason she had done it was not heroic. She had done it because she could not look at that girl in that chair for 1 more minute and feel nothing. That was not courage. That was the minimum. She knew the difference. She thought, next time, do more. She thought, there will be a next time. There was always a next time. The only question was what kind of person she would be in it. Nia went back to school on Monday. Most of her classmates had seen pieces of the story. The pieces depended on which parent had read which article. A boy named Cody said, "Your dad got 2 people fired." Nia looked at him. "They got themselves fired," she said. The teacher turned toward the whiteboard to hide something in her expression. At lunch, Harper sat across from Nia in the cafeteria. Harper had red hair and freckles and took everything seriously. She had a notebook open beside her tray. "I read the whole thing," Harper said. "I know. Were you scared?" "Yes. The whole time. The first part was the worst. After the card. Before Officer Reyes." Harper wrote something in her notebook. "What are you writing?" Nia asked. "I am writing down what you said. For when I am scared, and I need to remember something true." Nia looked at her. "What did I say?" Harper turned the notebook. Knowing it was wrong made it easier to stay still. Nia read it. She thought about it. She had not known, when she said it, that it was the kind of sentence someone would write down. She had just been trying to explain something true. "Can I write something else?" Harper said. "Sure." Harper uncapped her pen. "What is it?" Nia looked at the table for a moment. She looked at the cafeteria, at all the different kinds of people being all the different kinds of things they were at 12 years old. Certain and uncertain, loud and quiet, belonging and looking for it. "Write this," she said. Harper held the pen. "Dignity does not need permission to exist." Harper wrote it. She underlined it. She looked up. "Your dad say that?" "No," Nia said. She picked up her fork. "I did." Marcus spoke at a community forum 6 weeks later. Not at a courthouse. Not at a conference. At the Millbrook Public Library. A Tuesday evening. Folding chairs. Fluorescent lights. 63 people. He stood without notes. He talked about his daughter. He talked about a restaurant on Greenfield and Fifth. He talked about the shape of a moment, when someone looks at a person and decides before they listen. He said, "We call that bias, when we are feeling generous. We call it intuition when we are not. The difference between those 2 words is not the act. The act is the same. The difference is whether we are willing to examine what produced it." He paused. He looked at the 63 people in the folding chairs. He said, "My daughter sat in a lobby for 90 minutes holding a birthday card she had written 3 drafts of. She had her name, and her reason, and her composure. None of it was enough for the room she was in, because the room had already decided." He paused again. He said, that is how it works. Not usually with villains. Usually with ordinary people, in ordinary jobs, making 100 small decisions a day about who gets the full smile and who gets the thin one, about which card gets held at an angle, about whose story sounds credible before they have finished telling it. He looked down for a moment. He looked back up. He said, the courage that night was not mine. I drove 12 minutes in a suit. The courage was a 12-year-old girl staying seated when every signal in that room was telling her she did not belong. The courage was a young server who brought a glass of water when she could have stayed in the corridor. The courage was a police officer who sat in a chair because she wanted a child to feel less alone. He said, courage is rarely one large thing. It is mostly very small things done by very ordinary people in very ordinary moments, when it would have been easier to do nothing. He said, that is the part one want you to remember. The room was quiet, not the uncomfortable kind. The kind that comes after something that lands where it was aimed. He drove home. Nia was at the kitchen table doing homework. Her grandmother was washing dishes. Something was on the stove that smelled like the soup Marcus had grown up eating on his mother's Thursday nights. He stood in the doorway for a moment and looked at it. All of it. The ordinary Thursday kitchen. The light above the stove. His daughter with her head bent over a notebook. His mother with her hands in warm water. He thought about everything that had to go right over a very long time for a moment this ordinary to exist. He thought about Nia on a bus, alone, with a cream envelope and $212 and 3 weeks of planning. He thought about the lobby, the chair, the water, the way she had looked at him when he came through the door. Not with relief, exactly, with recognition, like she had known he was coming, like she had known from the beginning that the truth was already there. It had always been there. The room had simply refused to read it. Nia looked up from her homework. How was the forum? Good, he said. Did they listen? He hung his keys by the door. He took off his jacket. He laid it over the back of a chair with the inside pocket facing up, where the card still was. He had carried it every day for 6 weeks. He thought he might carry it for considerably longer. Yes, he said. I think they listened. Nia nodded. She looked back at her notebook. She drew a small cloud in the margin the way she always did when she was thinking about something else, while she was supposed to be thinking about something. Then she wrote a sentence beneath it. Her father could not see it from the doorway. He would read it later, when she had gone to sleep. When he sat at the same table, with the same lamp, and picked up her notebook to move it, and noticed the page, and read what she had written. He would stand very still for a moment. He would read it 3 times. Then he would set the notebook down exactly as he had found it, and he would stand in his kitchen at 11:45 at night and feel, quietly and completely, that he had not failed at the thing that mattered most. What Nia had written was this: power is not making people afraid of you. Power is making sure someone else does not have to be afraid. That is what the room looked like the night someone tried to make my place into a question. I knew the answer. I stayed. The measure of a room is not how it treats the people it expects. It is how it treats the ones it did not see coming. Maison 11 had spent 9 years perfecting the art of anticipation. The right tablecloth, the right candlelight, the right temperature of the bread, the right smile at the right moment for the right guest. It had not anticipated Nia Bennett. It had not anticipated what she carried through the door. Not the envelope, not the card, not the money saved across 4 patient months. It had not anticipated a 12-year-old girl who had learned, in a first-class cabin 2 years before, that some rooms would always try to take her chair, and who had decided, somewhere between that airplane and this lobby, that the answer to those rooms was not to avoid them. The answer was to stay seated, to know her name was on the ticket, to wait for the truth, which was already there, which had always been there, which only needed someone with enough patience and enough stillness to let it finish arriving. She had that patience. She had that stillness. She had learned them from a man who wore a black robe and sat behind a bench and gave even the hardest cases enough time to be heard. She had learned them in the margins of her homework, drawing clouds. She had learned them in a seat called 2A at 30,000 feet, with her hands wrapped around a backpack strap and her father's voice in her memory. Nia, when someone wants to make you look out of control, do not help them. She had not helped them. Not on the airplane. Not in the lobby. Not when the card was held at an angle. Not when the police were called. Not once. She was 12 years old. She liked blueberry pancakes and duck confit and drawing clouds and margins. She kept a stuffed lion in her bag that she had owned since she was 5. She still wrote in blue ink because she liked the way it looked on cream paper. She was not a story. She was not a symbol. She was not the sum of what the room decided she was before she had the chance to be anything. She was a girl with a plan and enough love for the person she had made it for to walk through a door alone and stand there in the gold light and not move. That is all. That is everything.
Thank you for following this story. Let us know in the comments below. If this story has moved you and you'd like to stand with us in bringing more voices of truth and hope to light. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next chapter. We're preparing for you.